Nachhaltigkeit ist für die Verbraucherin.
Sustainability is an important topic for consumers. At the same time, there is this gap between behavior and action, and there retail plays a prominent role. It can include brands into the assortment that have a true sustainability approach. Retailers can train shop assistants to advise shoppers on sustainability, and we also want to ask today, which role do retailers play in the design of a more sustainable fashion industry? How far informed are shop assistants, and can sustainable fashion bring life to inner cities, city centers? And I'm happy to welcome three speakers on this topic today. Tanja Kliewe-Meyer, who is already ready and joining me. She is the founder and CEO of Like a Bird Lifestyle GmbH. Then with us we've got Frederik Gottschling of Handel Digital of the Visionsbüro Frankfurt. Hello and welcome. And joining us online is Marco Schütte, Project Manager at EK Fashion Sustainability Platform. A very warm welcome to all three of you. Maybe we can start with a brief round of introductions first, and we will start with the lady, of course.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me for this event. My name is Tanja Kliewe-Meyer, and I'm the founder and managing director of the fashion brand Like a Bird. And we also have a new innovation center in Meerbusch, which is wanting to scale up sustainable startups into the market. And I am also responsible for the training program of EK Servicegroup for sustainability at the point of sale. My name is Gottschling, and I'm responsible for the digital trade, Handel Digital, and we are mainly thinking about digitization, but this is not a clear-cut topic. We are also talking about startups, foundation, where digitization is important. And I am responsible for the content we produce for the website, or also the events that we organize, trainings, and so on.
And Marco Schütte, last but not least.
Hello to everybody. My name is Marco Schütte, and for 3 years I have been working at the EK Servicegroup, which is a group with a headquarters in Bielefeld, and I'm responsible of the EK Sustainability Platform, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Welcome, Tanja. I would like to ask you first. You lead Like a Bird, and you work with many different materials. I know that you design fashion from rose petals. You've also worked with coffee, waste coffee. This is, of course, very modern, working with sustainable materials, but at times they prove to be not that sustainable, because after a while you find that other materials have a better eco-balance. How do you communicate about this, and how do you pursue this?
What is important is that you are always transparent in all the steps you take, because if you start sourcing, you always have the good intention to act as a role model. And I think it's very important to be there right from the start and to always think through to the end. Also include recyclability or composting of the final product, like with the rose products. And it's important to look at the entire supply chain and to be in constant contact with your supplier, because especially as a small brand, you don't have the possibility to exert pressure like a big company. You have to develop trust, and as soon as you find out something you don't like, or you reach a limit, so if you do no longer know what the farmers on site really have to do, you can't communicate. So you can try to be a role model and to show things, but if there are limits, you have to be honest about it and say this is where it stops and this is better than doing nothing. And regarding the rose viscose, we can really say with pride that this is a product which can be composted, and it can be composted without any residues. Fully ecological product. And I did notice some problems in the first process, but you have to be credible and communicate this.
If you say that you've spotted mistakes and errors, what were these errors and mistakes, and how did you deal with the crisis communication then?
Well, here I would like to give you an example. For certain fibers, cellulose fibers or the coffee fibers, it is not 100% for the coffee carbon to be a coffee carbon. It can also come from other burnt materials. It was confirmed that it comes from burnt coffee, but it cannot be proven in retrospect. And this is why I said I no longer want to use this fiber any longer, and I will now focus on fibers which show me clarity in the entire supply chain so that I can communicate this with a good conscience.
Did you encounter the case where the product was in the store, but you had to communicate that it was not that sustainable?
Luckily enough, this didn't happen.
I would like to also ask this Marco Schütte. What is the role of retailers in communication with shoppers in terms of sustainability? What I just described, the case, the scenario where you actually have a product that is not so sustainable and you have to communicate about this, although it's already on the shelf. Or as somebody, as I manage the brand, and I know that the product is sustainable, but how much is known about this in the retail store?
Well, I think that a lot more needs to be done here. Also against the background that consumer behavior will probably change depending on the information the consumers receive. And the dealers have to ask the industry very clearly about where the product comes from, how it was manufactured. So awareness raising and information and fact-finding can never be sufficient.
Maybe you can be a little more concrete. I know of an initiative saying in conventional retail, there are sustainable products offered, but these products are not just part of the assortment. They are really visualized on specific areas, so they are eye-catching. Would there be little display boards saying something about their sustainability? How would you do that?
Well, if you now take a look at our project, yes, we can do quite a lot. At the end of the day, we said, based on a representative study of the University of Dual Studies in Heilbronn and Professor Jans, that there is one central message saying that the consumer changes his behavior towards more sustainability, and secondly, the study says that the interest in sustainable clothing is increasing. It does not depend on the age or the gender of people, but this is simply due to the corona situation. And this study then resulted in us saying, okay, if this is the case, we now also have to show sustainability more strongly at the point of sale, and we then created the sustainability platform. Perhaps you can show this so that I can provide more information. This now is the green change area, which I would like to explain to you. This is featuring or visualizing what sustainability can look like at the point of sale. So the shop owner can show the merchandise and show additional material. So here we've got special shelves made of cardboard, and we no longer use plastics or metals, and we created a special area at the point of sale in order to attract the attention of the consumer. And what you can see here on the picture is something that we started in my fashion store in Waldshut-Tingen in September, and there is a second picture showing how it is integrated. This is now the sustainability platform that I would like to come back to later on. There should be another picture. Perhaps you can also show the other picture showing the green change area. Unfortunately, we can no longer hear you, Marco.
Exactly. The second image is unfortunately not available, but we saw the first photo of this pop-up of the green change. There's Marco. Marco's back. Maybe we can discuss this area again. This is really eye-catching. You can see it's a different kind of product. It's sustainable products. This is all shown. What is the know-how that the sales staff have who are supposed to sell these items?
Perhaps we can now go back to the chart showing the sustainability platform that I can use as a basis here. With our approach, we want to have a 360 degrees view. We started the platform at the end of 2020 together with 11 sustainable brands, and it's based on 5 pillars. And in order to come to your question, if you take a look at the end of this chart, trainings and events are very important. And together with our Dutch colleagues, Mr. Terschenning is helping us here. We created a platform where we are offering trainings and events, and we are now developing the Fashion Academy together with my colleague Melanie Moore in Germany. And Tanja also comes into play here because we think that the training at the point of sale regarding sustainability issues and in order to provide a good knowledge transfer is of utmost importance. The other 4 pillars are based on our business model. So for this platform, it is important and decisive for us to offer a broad range of sustainable brands from shoes, clothing, accessories and hardware. And in the second pillar, the concept area, the green change concept area, pop-up area is important, where as a dealer you can show sustainable brands so that the consumer can experience sustainability. As we are a larger group, it's important for us to focus on cross-selling. We do not only want to show fashion, but everything that might be interesting in the area of sustainability, be it glass bottles or washing bowls. So this needs to be shown, featured at the point of sale so that the end consumer can see that sustainability is important in all the walks of life. And in our account teams, we then go into our members companies and we recommend brands always based on the conventional marketing and product mix, because we want to make sure that this topic is anchored more deeply in conventional sales. And the professor also said that sustainable fashion brands normally are not featured prominently enough in the conventional stores, and we have to support this. And the second chart here shows that at the end of 2021 we are on a good way. We now have 17 partners from men's fashion, women's fashions, lifestyle and service providers, and this is a very profound approach for the market and for the members of EK Fashion. And we think that we are going in the right direction here.
Well, I would like to come to you, Frederick and Tanja. You already mentioned that the digital sphere is also important for your work. And Tanja, I know that you're also consulting the EK Fashion Group about communicating about sustainability. Where do you think is the highest need, the highest demand, and how can you satisfy this demand? Maybe you want to start.
Now, reflecting on our work, the largest need for knowledge is to create confidence, to create trust, and to explain the work progress for sustainability. There is not the sustainability, just providing a label and then that's it, is what we learned in the time of the pandemic. Scientific insight will change. Scientific insight will only really make its stance if you really think about this problem, and at the end of the day you might say it's not as sustainable as you thought in the beginning, but this does not mean that it's not sustainable at all. So it's a learning process, a communication process is also necessary, and this is something where we try to tell the stores we want to provide them with tools and tell them what needs to be visible in the stores and how this can best be done, including digital communication and websites, because the user journey mainly is on the website. People are getting information from the website and you have to bring it all together, and you also have to be in touch with the manufacturers, because it's sometimes not very easy to receive the information you need. Sometimes you get the information, in other times you don't get the information, but even if the information exists, it's not prepared, it's not made available yet, and so a lot needs to be done. And then it also depends on the size of the company affected. The larger the company, the easier it is regarding resourcing. The smaller the companies are, the more difficult it will be for the small companies, and we as an association want to support and help the companies.
Let me briefly recap, Tanja. One thing you do, you said, is that you give retailers tools. Can you mention one tool that works particularly well?
Well, one specific tool is an exchange of experience, because it's a field where there are so many different platforms, so many different information platforms, that it's quite complex. So it's not possible to say there is this service, you just have to use this tool and then you will be fully sustainable. No, this is not possible. You will see that others also have difficulties fully understanding this topic, even if you think about it for a very long time. I remember a story 2 years ago. It was also about sustainable fashion, and was said it's not only fabric, but it's also the buttons, and then it's the yarn, and also the yarn materials. And the stronger you go into the details, the more you will see that there are more questions than answers. And this is one of the most important tools in the time of digitization. You have to organize a regular exchange of use.
And Tanja, for you, the question, where do you feel is the highest demand for consultation?
I think it's mainly about the sales staff. They have to be given the necessary information, because there is still a high need for information. There are so many labels. There is a real jungle of different labels and certificates. People don't know about it properly, and we have to show people what exists regarding the green change areas, and we have to provide information on the materials, and we can have different training modules to get a insight. Very often the situation is that the consumer has more information than the sales staff in the store, and this is a problem. So you have to provide more competence and more qualification to the people on site. And this is, of course, easier for big companies than for small ones. But in the first step, information is very important. And this is what we are doing in our training in order to have a better transparency and in order to get a better understanding.
This is really exciting to me because it sounds as if those who would have to know, the sales assistants, are probably the ones that have the highest backlog demand.
Well, you can't generalize this, but well, it's also a fact. I had a discussion last night. If you go to a store and there you find the shop assistants and people are apparently only drinking coffee, then it's not the right approach. You have to be active as a sales assistant. You have to approach people and talk to people. And if you then also go through the area together with the consumer, and if the customer sees that the sales staff really is supporting this and is really behind this, then the consumer no longer has the impression that the sales staff is only drinking coffee.
Maybe we could talk about Hesse and Frankfurt in concrete terms now. Frederick, how far have we progressed in retail in terms of sustainability? Can you give us some concrete figures, please?
I can understand that you want to see facts and figures. I would have loved to bring you some, but it's not that easy. One of the reasons is that there is no such thing as sustainability, but there are different types of sustainability. If you think about the fashion area, the food area, sustainability is visible only if you have special areas featuring sustainable products in the store, or for food you've got the unpackaged products sold in different stores. But it's quite difficult because there is a problem between the hen and the egg. Who is starting? So you do not simply replace one product by a more sustainable product, because perhaps you don't need a non-sustainable product any longer, and you can be more sustainable if you don't buy any product at all. And we also had the example of the sponges used in kitchen. There was a question to an unpackaged product store asking them whether they wouldn't sell any sponges, and they said no, there are no sustainable sponges. And we know that around 80% of the consumers say that it's important to buy sustainable products, but there is still a gap between attitude and behavior. Just because people say it's important, they don't act accordingly. And 40% of people in fashion say that people don't have a bad conscience if they buy a non-sustainable product. So dialogue is necessary, not only among the stores and the manufacturers, but you really have to go out there and actively communicate about sustainability. This is an area which we have to discuss at all levels of society. Not only because this about the content of the product, but also how it was produced, whom it was produced by, where the resources came from. And there is also a special newspaper edition, and there is the example of vanilla, and at the end of the day the company that was featuring there is doing everything themselves, because otherwise they cannot really trace the raw material to the origin. They now eliminated all the intermediaries, because otherwise it was not possible to have full transparency, and this shows the complexity of this topic.
Is this also the reason, Marco Schütte, that it is important to have green changed in a highly exposed position? It's a highly complex topic, and it's not one that you can address with easy answers. All the more important it is to actually show the positive examples in a high vision position.
Yes, that's true. And I would like to come back to Professor Jan's study which really was an eye-opener for us. There are 5 reasons why we selected this special green change area. First, there is not enough offers regarding sustainable products in the stores. Secondly, sustainable brands are not visible enough at the point of sale. And this is something that we already said before. The sales staff very often does not have enough information regarding sustainability, and based on my long experience in the trade, I already see that many of the people are properly trained. But if you talk about sustainability in detail, very often, as Tanja said, the consumer seems to have more information than the sales staff. So we really have to do a lot, because knowledge transfer is really the key to success here. And another deficit that we found, especially in the fashion industry, is that some of the sustainable brands are quite famous, and we as the EK group can now build bridges, and we can say, okay, we will provide these brands a platform to get into the industry, and at the same time we can give the sales staff the necessary information in order to define their assortments and their offer. And the 5th component that often causes problems is that sustainability is regarded as too expensive, but this is no longer true. So the price points are normally quite similar to other non-sustainable brands. And so good visualization and a good featuring of the products can create new customer bases, but it can also help the conventional customers.
One question for Tanja. The shopper who comes to your store, what are their questions in terms of sustainability? And is this helpful when you advise on this topic? What are they asking about in concrete terms?
Well, first of all, the design is important. It's really about design. It's about the look of the products. And then sustainability is an additional aspect which is important. And it's up to our industry now to change this and to have a stronger focus on sustainability, to say that we need sustainable manufacturing processes. It is an aspect which has gained in importance, but still the design and the look are still more important. So this is definitely the case, and this is something that we already heard in the beginning this morning by Mrs. Urner's presentation. This is the attitude-behavior gap. Most of the people want to have sustainable consumption, but I see wherever I want to sell things, whether it's in direct sales or to stores, it's first of all the image, the brand, and the style that needs to be convincing.
I think this will not change. Sustainability will count as an added value, but what really counts is, do I like this fashion? And this needs to be considered by all of the brands who also want to be sustainable, that the design aspects are right. I have one question for you, Frederik. Oh no, I forgot my question. We'll talk about this later. Tanja, for you now. Instilling city centers with new life. You're really promoting this with Like a Bird and with Marco Schütte.
Well, Corona showed this very well. The inner city areas really suffered. The stores suffered, and we are in the midst of a transformation process. If you now take a look at the inner city areas and the problems, you can compare this to the situation and the problems of our fashion industry. Sustainability for me is not only a trend, but it's a zeitgeist topic. And now I think the inner city areas are in demand again, and I have a project together with the city of Herford. Real estate should be supported if they have sustainability concepts, and so I will go to the city areas with a new concept in order to make sustainability a reality in the inner city areas. It's important for the cities to provide the right infrastructure to offer affordable homes. And in this example, for example, there is a historical market hall which has sustainable products, and everything can be experienced in this inner city area. And this is the main aspect that is so important here. It must be transparent, it must be visible, it must be new and innovative over and over again, so that people are no longer interested in online platforms only, but also they are interested in going into the city areas again, where there are also nice cafes and other areas. So the time of the fashion labels, where all the inner city areas look the same, are over. And this is what the corona pandemic showed us. These times are over, and we need more individual concepts again. And this is something that you can feel everywhere. And I think it's good to support this and to push the zeitgeist in this way.
Honestly speaking, this is what Frederick said, and that is that the most important thing is that you never stop talking to each other, and that for shoppers this is now presented at the point of sale. And I remember the question now that I wanted to give you, and it goes to Markus Schütte and the rest of you as well. In the cooperation with conventional retailers, but also with sustainable retailers, have they voiced different needs in terms of, or do they share the same needs?
I think that there are differences because, well, when we started with our project, I said that there are two realities. On the one hand, we've got the conventional retail trade, which for years has watched the trends and tried to find out how to best market fashion at the point of sale. And then there was another area which always said that fashion also needs to be produced in a fair and sustainable and socially responsible way. And based on this situation, as we only have one world, these two areas have to get together. And the corona situation has shown that the consumer is more far advanced than some of the manufacturers. And if I now talk about our EK Servicegroup again, but also take a look at the industry in general, we just have to respond to the changes in consumer behavior. And we have to make sure that sustainability really is seen as one of the important factors in fashion. And this leads me to the question in how far the consumer is also prepared to include the new offer in his or her wardrobe. And there we still have to look for new ideas, new solutions to make sure that the consumer buys more sustainable products. I can only underline what was just said. If you take a look at the whole field of sustainability, on the one hand we have companies who are doing pioneering work, and in the other discussion on the green button there were companies which said, well, we only started 1 year late, we are not among the pioneers. I still think this is pioneering work. It's still in its infancy. But I think it's also important to talk about the economic aspects, and sustainability, of course, is a cost factor, and we need investments, but it also means that we will become more competitive. because it's no longer a trend topic, although it's described as such in many areas, but it's a topic which will not disappear. With the internet, people have said in the beginning, it will disappear at some point in time. No, it's still there. And this is also true for sustainability. It's not a topic which is only important this year or next year and then it will disappear again. No. We now see that we have legislation in this area. If you also think about carbon pricing, and this is another very important topic which we can discuss for a full day. But the framework conditions are changing, and this will definitely continue in this way. And it will be important to expose sustainability, to show this in a better way. But there was also a campaign regarding bees. What types of products would disappear from our shelves if there were no bees any longer? And this was not done on a special area in the store, but in the entire stores. And here sustainability will have to reach this phase where we say, okay, it's not about buying a product because it's sustainable, but it's a benefit, it's nice, and it's sustainable. And there are alternatives, there are more alternatives, and then you will also see the prices will change. Yes, there will be some differences, and people will also use this as a marketing instrument, but at the end of the day, no matter whether it's the raw materials or other materials, if they are available in a broad way, then this will also be visible in the stores, and then you can take the decision yourself what you want to do as a company.
I think you've basically anticipated the answer to my next question. And I would like to ask you for your questions now from the audience. Last question is, what do conventional retailers need to embed more sustainable brands? Since this is here with us to stay, this is a topic of a commercial sense, of common sense. If you want to add, it must make commercial sense.
We definitely need a broad offer, because we see that the demand is there and is increasing every day. And then the retail trade needs support to show the products correctly at the point of sale. And then it will develop, similar to what we have seen in the food retail trade. It will become a new normality. Sustainable brands, sustainable products, sustainable articles will just be part of the product offer, and then it's just natural. This is what the previous speaker already said. Sustainable textile products will become normal. And this is something that the retailers then have to anticipate, and they will have to anticipate the increased demand.
Well, thank you very much. At this point, to you, I can't see any hands in the audience nor any new questions in the live stream. So first of all, thank you very much for taking part in this panel discussion. And this also brings us to the end of today's event. Maybe I can summarize a little. I think that these were three very entertaining, versatile hours of event. We talked about change the mindset, and Maren Orner told us how to overcome our Stone Age brain by staying naive, curious, and lenient. and how we can change our consumption behavior. Mr. Dietzold of the German Design Council told us that it is important to have shared storytelling, stories that we hand on not only within our own culture but across cultures. Karin Siegler gave us a wonderful impulse. She said crisis is not only negative, it's probably also a turning point for positive acting, for the journey of your own brand. But you can also generalize this, I think. The green button showed us once again the duties and the possibilities of assuming responsibility. The green button is doing this very impressively, and the beautiful formula by Axel of Chivo, reach, communication, and then the world and Europe is ours, at least for the green button. That was a beautiful formula, and this is how you make it to the headlines in the in the 8 o'clock news. The sneaker hunt was a very important impulse for all of us. It shows the value and the possibilities provided by constructive journalism to inform, and I was so happy to learn that there's a constructive spin there too, to actually leave behind this misery of new merchandise being shredded. Are there new possibilities? I think we should stay on the ball and follow up this great project. And now at the point of sale, the lesson learned was it is a highly complex topic. The best thing we can do is stay talking to each other, also admitting that there are no easy answers to these topics, and that we should be honest when we come up against limits and to stand still. 80% of the people have reached the right attitude. They want to be sustainable. I think this figure is already a very positive one. And all of the ones sitting here and in the live stream know how to start an act now. We will, from the 4th to the 8th of July, when the next Fashion Sustain takes place, definitely be able to see what has been achieved in the meantime. And I really look forward to continuing our talks at that point. Thank you very much.